Hello and welcome to another episode of Page Burners. We are working our way through the Malazan books in publication order. The books by Stephen Erikson and Ian Esselmont. We're currently working our way through Memories of Ice. We read approximately 100 pages of each book in whatever edition we are following for said 100-page split. Today's discussion is going to be for chapters 12 through 14. Next week, we'll talk through chapters 15, 16, and 17. Yeah, I think that's everything. If you'd like to discuss this book with us on the forums, please consider checking out the pagechewing forum. I think that's it. With me, of course, I have the usual group of friends. They'll go around introducing themselves, also talk about what they most want to discuss this week. For me, my name is Varsha, by the way. I always forget to introduce myself. But for me, it's going to be Gruntle, the rise of Gruntle as the leader of what did they call themselves? I
They're a
don't know, the
militia.
band.
They're a militia. I don't know. Did they have a name
Yeah,
for themselves?
I think it was a militia, right? Yeah, it wasn't a name for themselves. It was a word that Itkovian used when he thought about
Militia.
them. Okay,
Yeah.
militia. Okay, there we are. That's what I want to talk about. Carl, go.
Yeah, I guess I'm next. I'm Carl. I probably most want to talk about. You know what? I'm gonna go with a consistent theme for myself throughout this book and say talk the younger. I know there's some divisiveness around his storyline here, but I am just thoroughly entertained in a bleak, horrified way reading his stuff, and so that I'll say talk the younger. And the Panion Seer, the Panini Seer, as it were. Shannon, next.
Sure. My name's Shannon, and Varsha stole what I wanted to talk about. So I will have to pick. How about Buke and our necromancers and kind of what we learned about them at the end of chapter 14. I was interested in that. And I'll hand it over to Steve.
Yeah, I'm Steve from pagechewing, and Varsha stole what or Carl stole what I wanted to talk about. And so I will go to the defending a, I think there's some kind of, I think we all have certain feelings when someone's going to defend, and it feels hopeless that they're going to defend a stronghold or a castle or a city, and all the odds are stacked against them. There's something that kind of just makes me happy reading stuff like that. I don't know if that's just me or where that comes from, but I wonder if everyone else feels that way. So, yeah.
It's not just you.
Okay. And Dan.
Yeah, that's me. I wanted to talk about like Varsha stole what I was going to talk about. So I was going to talk about like the whole scene with Gruntal and how cool it is. Even though he's not my favorite character, that scene is that like chapter is very very cool. So I didn't prepare backup, so I'll just talk about that too.
No, Dan, find your own thing to talk about.
I did. I didn't know.
Okay. We can both talk about Grunter. It's fine. Okay, so I guess talk is the chapter we start with. Chapter 12 is all about talk. So, Carl, do you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah. So I know that there, I think it's maybe worth mentioning to begin with that the question of whether or not Talk's decision to separate from the group is a point of contention, and it has spread into the forum now that people are discussing it. And I'm gonna be real. I've moved on. I no longer care if it makes any sense, and just because I love all the shit that goes on with him here. I think it's interesting too because of how much it's just like expositing how terrible it is to live amongst cannibal rapists, but that's like, you know, a big part of his story here. And then you get to like properly meet Anaster, who is suitably creepy, and I don't know why, but Anaster is one of those characters that always like, he stands out to me. It's probably as much as anything just his origin, that he's the first child of the dead seed, which is such an insane, horrible in a good way concept. And, you know, so he has this mythic quality to him that I feel like Erikson is always good about, like coming up with these crazy like mythic ideas and executing accordingly. And Anaster very much fits that mold as like, he's like a young dude, but he's scary and he has gravitas, and that's cool. And then we meet the Panini Seer, who is a corpse, and then we learn is not a corpse, but is some sort of spirit or power possessing a corpse. And Talk is the only one who has seen through it because of his wolfish divine passenger princess. And I don't know. It's just cool stuff. Like, it's all very intense. Like, I'm like on the edge of my seat as I'm reading it, and I like Talk, and I loved all the like it's actually shocking to me how quickly all this stuff happens in the book. Like, in my like memory, it feels like it happens later. And I mean, I haven't even mentioned how it ends with him in the arms of the matron, the Kachain Shamal matron, which is horrifying. That he is immediately hugged to her reptilian breast and all the bones in his body broken. And I just remember the first time reading that and thinking it was horrifying and so strangely captivating and such a roller coaster of events. And yeah, please.
As you said, like, it's happened so quickly. Because we were discussing last time about like, oh, you know, he's gonna leave to be safe, and you know, we all know what's gonna happen, but it feels longer because he leaves and then he travels across half the country, and then he goes to meet Vizier. Like, a lot of stuff happens, but it's like one chapter, so it feels like, oh, the next day, it basically things go bad for him almost immediately. In my mind, it was like, oh, it was way longer.
Exactly. No, it's the exact same for me, right? That I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like we cover such a broad like range of time relatively in one chapter that he, you know, goes on a big journey, and we just like recap it in a few pages, and those few pages are like suitably disturbing, and then everything falls apart for him very quickly. And it is. It's like, it's very weirdly eventful, but like breezing through to the. I mean, Erikson just doesn't play around there. He just is suddenly. I know he's not a cannibal. I was about to say he's a cannibal. That scene always gets me, where I'm always like, oh my god, I can't believe Talk ate a person, and then it turns out it's not a person. And I don't know. There's just so many revelations. It is strangely fast. Like, I almost feel like it should be too fast paced, but it works for me at least. That like I am engaged throughout it all, and I actually think that in general, that's what I would say about these chapters is they feel very fast. Like, things happen very quickly when I look back on them. We cover a lot of ground.
Also, I guess for not, I just realized something because if he's traveling with the Dead Seer, with the not the Dead Seer, the child of the Dead Sea, whatever. Sorry, this means that this is all happening like a week before, like the next chapter, right? Because then they're suddenly at the city. I don't know if it's actually a week. It might be even more. But like we feel like that if it happened at the same time, but we're actually not. We're like slightly shifted. I don't remember if it makes any difference later, but
In the previous chapter, they talk about how long they have, and I think the Malazans are supposed to show up 3 or 4 weeks from where they were. Maybe it was 4 or 5 weeks, and they think about how they do not have that much time. And I believe, if I remember correctly, they had less than a week before the Tenascari show up here. So they may have been closer than we think.
I thought that the Discovery are already there, just behind the main army.
Oh yeah, they could already see
Some of them.
Because
Yeah.
well, but
But
the child is
Nasser and
there
everybody
because
weren't there yet.
Yeah, Nasser is there, right?
Mm. And speaking of Anastar and getting to properly meet him, we also got some information about his mother, which was horrifying. And like it makes sense though. I didn't, when we read about the children of the dead seed and how they are made, and I guess there are brief mentions of the women who are crazy enough to do this. But somebody started it, and she was the one who did. And to sort of get a glimpse of that, I think it was pretty interesting. It wasn't even a direction I considered thinking in, but once we got a glimpse of that, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. She has to be that crazy to go out and do something like this. So, yeah.
You saying that is making it occur to me. Do we know, was she ordered to like rape a corpse, or did she just do that of her own volition and then that became a thing?
There's a little bit where it tells like it sounds like it was spontaneous and she just did it.
That's crazy. Yeah, that does tell you a lot about her.
I forget where it was.
She just goes for it.
It was crazy.
That's nuts.
But
Wow.
we call crazy all the new people that have new ideas, right? New inventions at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Mirka.
Great time for Mirka to join. Welcome to the party. We're just talking about...
She's just a trailblazer.
Yeah. A real trailblazer, a real innovator.
Right?
Yeah. Wait, did we lose someone? Who did we lose? Shannon. Okay. We got one, we lost one.
Equivalent exchange.
Even exchange. So, yeah, I think we're just talking about Talk and Anastar and the craziness of Anastar's mother. Mirka, did you have anything about that chapter? And also, if you have a favorite topic you want to discuss, we can add to the board. Gruntle and Talk have been taken multiple times, but you can feel free to pick that too.
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't prepare anything that I wanted to talk about today. Maybe Kalor and his new position, right?
Oh yeah, that was that. Yeah, that one was new.
Oh, that was an interesting... I totally forgot that was a scene, and that was in these chapters, wasn't it? Yeah, that is cool.
Was it? Well, it was, right?
That's like basically next.
Yeah,
no, it is. It is. I think that's right after what we were just discussing, the Talk the Younger stuff, right?
It's the next chapter, I think. The Talk the Younger chapter also feels like it's super quick because it's a very short chapter. I think in this edition it's like 15, 20 pages or something. All other chapters are at least 30 pages long.
I don't want to like misspeak. Do we figure out exactly what the thing is possessing, like what the Pandian is here?
I think so. No?
Do we?
Like, is it like properly revealed, or is it just alluded to? I can't remember, and if we're not certain, maybe I'll just dance around it. But I do know that there are some really big hints. If there's not a proper, like, if you're paying attention, you can figure this out here. But it's, I guess what I'm getting at is, in hindsight, it's crazy reading this because it's actually really obvious. But I, at least on my first read, was like completely taken aback by the ultimate reveal. And I quite enjoy that. I mean, I think it's just a testament to the fact that there's so much going on here that I forgot about Calor and the burgeoning House of Chains.
It's so
There's
easy
just
to
a lot of cool
miss. I
stuff here.
think, I would be surprised. I mean, I'm sure people who on their first read, some of them picked it up, but I'm with you, I haven't. So maybe let's just not talk about it. But those hints are there, and they are quite big. You are right.
I don't even remember what the reveal is. Damn. Now I want to know.
That's crazy. At this point, oh my gosh. Well, I guess we'll just keep it on the DL and let you rediscover that. But it is.
You mean this is
significant.
more information than the fact that the Bunyan seer could be jagged, right? We know that they're a specific person. Okay.
That's those.
Yeah, we'll just. Steve, please, no, please.
No, I don't want to say too much. Because I thought it was confirmed that it was Jagged, right? The Panyan Seer. Or up like not.
Okay, I felt like
100%
it also
confirmed, but-
was confirmed at this point.
Yeah,
That's
part
definitely a
is-
big part of it. Yes.
But the House of Chains part was that there was an empty position. Or am I misreading that?
Yes.
Okay.
No, exactly. Yeah, that the
trying to be
crippled
vague.
god is creating a new house, and Calor is invited to be the king.
Join or be invite or invite Calor.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, Calor is supposed to be quite good strategist, and that's why they have him around, right? He's supposed to be an asset in theory. So I think that's what you would want from like the king of your house, I guess, like someone good at strategizing and manipulating and organizing an empire, I guess, or something.
Talking about this, it does occur to me now. Why the fuck does anyone keep him around? Like on the hero's side, and maybe I that's not the appropriate word, but I mean they're very heroic what they're doing here. Like, why does Kaladin Brood keep him around?
What he said that he's supposed to be like super good at like managing the armies and strategy and stuff like, and he keeps him in command when he left. I think in the first book or something. At some point he leaves for a while and he lets him in command for a while.
It just seems like a guy who's famous for genociding a continent maybe isn't the guy you hire to be on your team. You know what I mean?
But maybe you want him on your team rather than against you.
I mean, fair enough. Maybe that's probably I feel a stronger argument is that you want to like keep your eye on him and like keep him around so you at least know before he's going to genocide another continent.
I mean, yeah. Wouldn't you want him on your side? Then, I mean, then you can. Whenever the genocide to be had, someone who has experience.
if you have to, as you're just walking around, like if you're forced to genocide a continent, I guess he's your guy.
Sure, it's time. I have a guy with experience. Let's call him up.
Exactly. His resume, it looks great.
I know a guy.
It's weird because we don't really know what his powers are, right? Like we don't really know what concretely he can do.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that debate about whether he did in fact destroy his own continent, because we were in his head again this time and I had no clue. It sounds all the things he's saying point to he did something actively to destroy it. It wasn't just the magicians, sorcerers who, I mean, it was them too, but it sounded like he did something in retaliation and therefore destroyed his continent. But also the crippled god came down there and may have destroyed the continent. It's all very unclear right now.
Because he hasn't done anything yet. He's just been a normal guy, like in the stuff we've read, right?
Apart from being extremely hateful towards Silver Fox, with reason, like she was one of the 3 people who cursed him.
That's a good point.
Oh, is that why?
it's the only reason why he hates her so much, or do you think there are other reasons for all that hate as well?
Maybe he just hates children or women. I don't know.
The way he talks about Nigel, it doesn't. It seems more than personal. It's like he knows far more about her. But people make general sweeping statements about people who've wronged them, whether or not they are true. He seems to be more objective than that, though. I don't know. I I don't want to defend him too much in case I'm wrong.
I think this is a good hill to die on. I think you should, like, you wouldn't be alone. I've definitely seen on Reddit people dying on the Calor did nothing wrong hill, and
Oh, really?
yeah. I mean, that's where I discovered the theory that it was just the crippled god. Like, the crippled god fell and accidentally nuked the continent when he fell.
But he says, like, in his mind, and everyone says he did it, right? It's like, it's so... I don't know how he did it, though.
I think, didn't he say, like, he did it because, like, it was starting to get out of control and he would rather destroy the empire than to see it ruled by someone else or split into smaller sections, so he'd rather like destroy it all, which probably means he's pretty crazy and dangerous. But I agree that we don't know how he managed to do that.
That's definitely the big question, right? Like, I think that's the thing that for me is the big like hole in trying to understand, or just to believe the story as we're told it, that he wiped out a continent. It's like, how did this guy do that? Because he doesn't seem like a guy who can just wipe out a continent.
Like, maybe, because I don't know if we're supposed to think about that, or if we're supposed to just be like, it's a mythological story. In the mythological stories, people do random things for no reason, apart from the fact that it sets them up for the lesson of the story, right? For like characters. So maybe it's just supposed to be a thing we're not supposed to worry about. I don't know.
I disagree with that.
But we worry about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's true. No, but I think that, but that's on purpose, right? Like, Erikson wants you actively engaging with the story and with the tropes, right? And like, and those go back even to like beyond like fantasy as a genre to mythology and history, like you're talking about, Dan. And I think the entire point that he seems like such a basic genocidal piece of shit is like evidence that there's probably more there, because usually there is with Erikson. Not always, but usually there's like more going on, especially when they seem to be so tropey, because Erikson is someone who like gets a rise out of, pulling the rug out of readers and doing things intentionally, like subversively.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if it's because a lot of time in these old stories they just say like, oh, this demigod or this thing did this thing, but they don't say how they did it, even though it might be some, oh, he built this whole palace or something, but they don't say like, oh, he used magic to build, or he employed people, or he whatever. They just say, oh, he did all these things, and they keep it very vague as to how a lot of the things that mythological figures do, right? Even like the Iliad and stuff like that, a lot of the things that they do is like it's kind of very vague. They just tell they did this thing, this is the result, but not how they do it.
It's not as mechanical. I agree, but I don't know. I feel like they're like, we have an idea of like, in a very broad sense, how the crippled god was summoned, or at least like kind of what happened there, right? Like. This isn't some like hard magic like X plus Y equals Z, but you can like kind of follow along. In Calor, I feel like it's notable that it is a big gaping hole where we're like, how did this one man destroy an entire continent when we haven't seen actual gods do that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nuclear
Mirka, do you have
weapons.
thoughts about that? Nuclear weapons, exactly. he had those hidden under. Yeah. I you know what? I support that theory.
Change technology, nuclear weapons. He found
I
them,
believe it.
used them to destroy the planet.
Actually, didn't wait. Okay, I'm sorry. Rewind. Doesn't he say something about that? This is like ringing a bell now. That
He
there's
has.
something about
It's just a
change
theory.
them all. Okay.
There is some candle, century candle that he burns. Is that Change quote technology quote, or is it? I don't know, something. He has something that keeps him alive. Oh, that reduces his age, physical age.
He made some, like, I swear there's some mention of like discovering Kachain Shamal alchemy or something. Maybe it's the century candles.
I think it's the century candles, yeah. And he does talk about alchemy, and that was in the context of century candles, which is such a cool concept.
It is
20
cool.
of those, so he can be alive for another 2 millennia at least. Wait, he has many score of those. He can be alive for several 2 millennia.
My guy.
Yeah, so it might be the later books working on me, but I'm starting to like this guy more than I did my first time around.
The Varsha supports mass genocide. Got it.
That's the lesson I'm taking from this. For sure.
Hey, we said if we need a guy for genocide.
Yeah, it's true. It's like if you need to have at least one guy on your team who can do genocide, Calor, I mean, he can get the job done.
Okay, but we didn't actually talk about the night offering of the night, or are we kind of? Yeah, sorry. Was there more on that subject?
Offering of the night. What
Was
are you
it the
talking about?
knighthood? No, not
The
knighthood.
High King.
King.
Oh, King.
Yes.
Yeah. High King. Yeah.
Oh, and I loved the conversation between, is it Gethol and and Kalor, and Gothos is his brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are all the Jagged we met so far really snarky, including Rice? I think like Gothos was. This guy is pretty sure there was one other, or maybe it was this guy. We saw him before.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe yes. I don't know. Was the woman at the beginning, was she snarky?
Don't think
A
The
so.
long
mom?
time ago, though. I think they evolved
Oh.
into that.
They grew into their snarkiness. Yeah. Darwin's law. If you exist long enough, you grow sarcasm.
Maybe it's just long-lived people. Like Tool is snarky in a. I don't even realize I'm being funny. I'm just saying it like it is way.
That's actually an interesting insight that I do feel like Erikson often writes very long-lived people as having this very like dry, snarky sense of humor.
I mean, at some point, you basically heard it all, so.
Right, exactly.
Right.
You stop giving a shit. You're just like, well, whatever,
I can imagine that. I was wondering about if maybe you guys had some insight on, like, what do their roles in the house, like the king and the sword and whatever, like the knight, like the knights seems to be like the messenger, I guess. Is that their job? Basically, they convey their messages of the gods, or I don't know.
This dude
What
is
does
the herald.
king? Oh, the herald. Sorry, the herald.
He's the active, which is literally a messenger.
True.
So.
True. So the herald is a messenger. The king. Do we know what the king does? And then there's also the sword, right? There's the knight or something. Isn't there?
Yeah.
I don't really know what they
Yes.
do, but I think every house has slightly different roles. But I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think, there is a knight of different things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what is Cotillion, for example, in the House of Shadow? Is he the knight?
He's the assassin.
But
I'm looking at the Dramatis persona right now. Yeah. He's there's a king, queen, assassin, magi, and hound for Shadow.
okay, but
I
they don't have the House of Chains listed in here yet, so.
And they take orders from the god of the house, I guess.
theoretically.
So what is, for example, so what's being offered to Calor? What is he gonna do? I don't know. That's the part I was less. I didn't know about this whole section because we didn't understand what they wanted from him and what he was gonna have to do or what the benefits basically of it.
I mean, that's a good question, Dan, because I didn't think about it. Looking at this High House Shadow, it says the king is Shadow Throne. So, what does that mean if the crippled god is offering that to Calor?
I think that's a lot
Yeah,
of power.
and then the king of High House Death is Hood.
Yeah.
So is the king the one in charge of the house?
I mean, looking at, according to this deck of dragons in the back of the book, yeah. I mean, yeah,
And they occupy the throne of the house, right? Whatever that means.
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah.
So, for example,
Hood is the king of High House Death.
Okay. I see.
The Queen of Dreams is the queen of High House Life. No king
Of
listed.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, yeah. So how does that
blank.
work? How does that work with the crippled god who is what? Wait, what the fuck? Now I'm more confused. I wasn't confused, and now I am confused about how any of this works.
Same,
because
Carl,
the whole point is
doesn't make any sense now.
the entire point of these decks is that they're imposing order upon otherwise like chaotic archetypal energy, and this doesn't make any sense. What?
Maybe because the crippled god is chained. Like he can, maybe because he's chained, he needs a figurehead, so to speak.
I agree with that. I think the crippled god can't just take the position in the House of Dragons because he would reveal himself. So he just needs, a representation of his will in the deck of dragons, and he chose Calor.
Yeah, but we also know Calor can't be a god, so like, I don't know, is the crippled god up to something here, like offering this to somebody who can't ascend?
That works well for him because then Calor is not going to ascend and threaten the crippled god, right? He'll always be the god.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
That's interesting. I hadn't considered that. I just assumed, I guess, that I don't know that I actually fully thought it through, but my first instinct was that it's just like fated that Calor cannot be the High King because he can't ever ascend. But maybe that's the whole point for the crippled god, is because we know he's, a chess master here.
Yeah, he's trying to manipulate something here.
Maybe
offering
that's his
something
flaw.
to somebody that they can't really accept all the way.
I do think, to go back to your question, Dan, I do feel like what the crippled god gets out of this, one way or another, or the House of Chains, this non-existent, hypothetical, mythological house gets, is a guy on the inside.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's the entire tension of this, is that suddenly the untrustworthy guy is actually on the enemy side. You know what I mean?
Big surprise.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why we're keeping this guy around. Like, what is Kaladin Brew doing? For a guy who's been around for like untold millennia, not a very shrewd planner.
Okay.
And there are hints that
this is like a.
Okay. I was saying there are hints that the crippled god is manipulating the Panian seer, or he's the reason that the seer became a thing in the
Yes.
first
Yeah.
place, right?
Yeah.
So he is an actual enemy. I think they know that too. It's not just the hints that the readers got. I think the opposite side knows it too. So yeah, he has joined
Yeah.
ranks with the enemy.
And
Absolutely.
answering you, Carl, I mean, maybe this is just a simple case of keeping your enemies close. Like, here's this guy. He's powerful. He's potentially a wild card. He probably is going to betray us. Might as well just keep him close and wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think that gets back to what Mirka said earlier, that I do feel like is probably the most logical like reason for it, is like, if you have this guy around, at least you know what he's up to, and if he tries to pull something, at least you're around to stop it, as opposed to he's just wandering the world doing who knows what, you know. So I as much shade as I'm throwing at the Kaladin Brood, and you know, I guess you could even take it beyond to Erikson and maybe Esselmont. I mean, I don't know how if this was world built just by Erikson or both of them, but I suppose there is. And when you're dealing with like theoretical continental nukes, like what do you do with that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you do have to think outside the box, I guess.
I mean, they could just kill him, but because they don't do it, and because they didn't do it the first time, we must assume he has some kind of power, right?
He can't die though, right?
Well, who said that? Who said that?
The gods who like cursed him. That
yeah,
was
but
part
why
of his
did?
curse,
Yeah,
was like,
that's what I'm saying. Why didn't they just kill him at that time? There must have been a reason. Why don't they kill him now? There must be a reason, right? Like, I can't imagine. That's because that's the correct solution to this issue.
I agree with you there. I do think this is where the mythological bit of it all is coming in, where it's like, I feel like the solution to the genocidal monster is you execute the genocidal monster. You don't like curse him to live forever and never achieve his aims. Like, that's not as like, it's that is like a myth.
But if they
You know,
cursed
like,
him
that
to
doesn't.
be alive forever, why does he need the candles to prolong his life?
Does he age but doesn't die?
No,
Oh,
Maybe.
okay.
he'll be just sentient dust otherwise.
That would suck.
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Yeah, maybe that's their whole plan, was they're like, he's just gonna age and rot as a corpse and nothing will happen. This guy is just too stubborn and.
Well, it's like the undead,
cunning.
Right? He doesn't want to end up being basically a skeleton.
Mm.
He wants to keep his form, I guess. I can believe that.
Okay. Why didn't they kill him?
You do have to wonder.
Maybe because he was so powerful, and that's coming back to that.
There must be some power.
Yeah.
There must be something he can do. I can't imagine why. Unless it's just supposed to be a moral story. And in that case, I can understand that. I'm just not sure where I fall right now.
Maybe they just want to like torture him, you know, like let him live forever, never achieving what he wants. And I mean, it's short-sighted, sure, but it's also kind of just being a dick, which kind of sounds like the gods in Malazan. At least some.
You do kind of feel like if you're gonna just like torture a guy, like stab him with Dragnapur. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
Make him drag that wagon for eternity. That's
well,
the
it didn't exist quite yet.
You're right. I was thinking about that as I was talking about it, but like, I don't know, like maybe they just like really jumped the gun by cursing him to live forever. You know, like that. Maybe hold off a few millennia and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're gonna know in the future that maybe there is a reason for all of this. Again, I haven't read everything, so could be. Maybe it's in one of the side books or something.
Steve, I'm curious. What are your thoughts on Calor? We've all given our thoughts, and I want to know what you think.
He really wasn't someone that stuck out to me too much, so it's interesting to hear all the thoughts around Calor, because I kind of forgot about him. So I'm having there's so many characters. I'm trying to keep up. I have like notes and notes and notes, and I'm just, I mean, there's so many characters. So I'm trying here, guys. I'm trying. And then just when I get comfortable,
this
there's
your
like, here's 4 more, and
read?
then it's my. I read through book 4 last time, so, but I was lost the first time I read this one, and I'm equally lost. Well, I'm not as lost the second time, but there's so many characters in this book.
My favorite thing about your relationship with Malaz and Steve is, as far as I understand, you loved book 4, and yet that is where you stopped.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's when we decided to read together, right?
Yeah, we were going to
Oh,
You
is
continue.
didn't
that
rage
actually how
quit
that
on
worked?
it.
No, we were gonna we were I was gonna
Oh.
continue with Layla, and then Varsha was, I think, in book 9. So
Yeah,
just, well, we
I
can
was
start
halfway
again.
through or something like that. Yeah.
So yeah.
We had
Okay.
just started the Wars of Light and Shadow discussions, and I was expressing the desire to have done something similar for Malazan, and Steve's like, let's do it. So I was like, yeah, I will finish book 10 and then immediately reading.
And then I get like weekly updates. I'm halfway
New
through book
lore.
10, or
I took, I don't know, 4 months to read the Cripple God or something. I took a long time to read each Malazan book, and yeah, that Toll the Hounds I read for nearly 7 months or something. Yes.
That's
I mean, to be fair,
Yeah.
we were also reading
Wow.
Manifest Illusions and the Second Apocalypse, and so
That is true. That is true.
we're busy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It was a side project at that point, yes. But I on the subject of snarky jagged, when Gethol shows up and Calor is just sitting on his throne. He has a throne that he carries around. Apparently, I love that image for him. and he look and Ghetto looks around and says and mocks him, says that this is your entire empire now. Wait, let me find that line. I had an LOL written next to it. Oh, here we go. He paused. I convey greetings from the crippled god to you, Calor. He paused to survey the tent's interior and your vast empire.
That is brutal. Just tearing him a new one, honestly.
Yes. Also in this chapter, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Whiskey Jack and Corlat, I think, right? They become official. They put labels on the relationship. They've got girlfriend and boyfriend now, etc., etc.
Going steady.
Yeah, they're going steady. whatever language the kids use.
Was there much sort of build up to that? Not really.
Fuck no.
There were hints,
Okay.
but
Yeah, if you read very closely, there are like 2 lines in the whole book until this point that hint that maybe they were like kind of eyeing each other and maybe thought they were kind of attractive. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm heated about this because I know people are like big on this couple, and I'm now, after rereading, I was like, this was actually one of the things I was paying attention to on this. Maybe this should have been my thing I was most excited to talk about, because I am heated about it. Is I went into this book being like, you know what? I bet there's a bunch of stuff here that I just completely missed because I was distracted by Talk the Younger being the best boy. And nope. There's like no build up. They just they fall in love. It's even worse than Perrin and Tattersail. And I will never forgive you, Stephen Erikson.
I thought you were a fan
I will
of
back you up on
romances,
this,
though.
Carl. I also, well, I like it when things are built up. I mean, for me, but no, I agree, Carl. I was doing the same thing, and yeah, there was like one sentence of like Corlat admiring Whiskey Jack, and that was it.
I thought it was more. I agree with you regarding Paran and Tethersail, because that was ridiculous. Like, they were, life partners within 2 pages. But I feel like Corlad and Whiskey Jack, they had some other moments there.
I guess we could argue things happened kind of off page because they've actually at least had time together. Like they've I don't know how many weeks it's been, but it's been some time.
I just don't.
We haven't seen any of it.
Like, if I am supposed to believe that they suddenly, like, their conversation about it and what Corlat says about, like, rediscovering, you know, like, basically being able to fall in love despite, you know, untold millennia weighing on you and all of that shit. That's lovely. I don't buy it. I mean, I buy it conceptually, and certainly in the idea of like two hot people finding each other attractive, like, sure, great, you know, but like, come on, like, we've seen better romances. Like, Erikson has written better romances. It's not that he can't do it; he just didn't do it here. Like, it's just left. It's in my mind in this book that this is like the big glaring flaw of what has happened so far, where I'm like, I just don't believe there is any build up to this. Like 2 lines,
What romance
and that is just not
was
enough
it in,
for how intensely they feel about each other.
wasn't there a romance in Gardens of the Moon that you were a fan of? And didn't we discuss that? That you're always a fan of romance, like you were good at the romance.
I
Forget what it was.
like romance when it's executed well. It'll make me like a story more. I like Apsalar and Crocus. I think they're very cute.
That's the one.
I'm obsessed with Iskarl Pust and Megora, who is just barely introduced at the end of Dead House Gates, and you're immediately like, yes, these two are made for each other. And here I'm like, whatever, you know, take it or leave it. Leave it, ideally.
Yeah, I guess Apsalar and Crocus romance is a bit better, but it's also not a lot. It's barely touched upon, to be honest. I don't feel that there's that much better romance in Malazan up to now. Like, I don't think romance is, from what I've read about Erikson, which is only these 3 books, to be honest. The romance is not good in my opinion. It's just it's been sort of like the literary and narrative equivalent of like Hetton asking just a random guy, oh, we're fucking tonight, and then they're doing it immediately. Kind of. It's very utilitarian. It's very like, we need a romance. After that, there's a lot of nice, like you said, the whole discussion, the whole speech about fighting love after so long time. Like, that's very good. That's very nice. I like that. I like the relationship of the characters after. I just don't feel the spark, to be honest. I don't feel the romance. It's not built on slowly. There's no tension, really, romantic tension before between the characters. So that's my opinion.
Might go through the exercise of writing down all the mentions of them looking at each other, and I don't know. I think there is enough. I want to persuade you now.
Please write down the 3 mentions of them looking at each other.
I've just read so much better romances in other books that
I agree. You know. I'm with you. I have on one of the pagechewing recordings gone to bat for Jamie and Brienne in A Song of Ice and Fire. I love a romance when it's there, and this ain't it.
Yeah,
this ain't
it. Fine. The rest is so good. I'm not reading it for the romance. It's just a way. It's just a different relationship between the characters, between all the other different relationships, but it's qualitatively sort of similar to a lot of other relationships of friendship or alliances or other things. It's just a way of, you know, making the characters interact in a slightly different way. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
It's funny how you mentioned
so I'm fine with it,
Hetton, and I realized how different this is because, like, yeah, as you said, Hetton is just like so physical, no romance around it, just, you know, let's do it. And then you have I don't know if it was Carlad or Whiskey Jack asking like, "Will you be my lover?" Which is, like the exact opposite of that, just like the other extreme.
It's both like you just jump on it, and one of them is like, I don't know. I just feel like narratively, if you're gonna do something that's supposed to be as meaningful and emotional as romance, it's gotta like you've gotta see it there. It's gotta be built up, And I just don't. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to steamroll other opinions, but clearly I have strong opinions about this.
I do enjoy more the tension between Hetton and what's his name?
Grant?
The Grey Sword.
No, Ikovian. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ikovian, yeah. Personally, I like that more than the Corlat.
I agree.
So
I agree.
But that's
because
not
it's
love.
also mentioned. I don't know. It's something though. I can see the motivation. I can see, I understand those characters more, I guess. I agree. How they're described.
100%. You want to know true love? You want to know true love? Freaking Animander Rake in the dragon that he flies off to bone. That's true love.
Sure.
There was no build up there, Carl. We were just told that she's back there waiting for him.
Still more believable. Even better build up. Animander Rake and Kaladin Brood. Best boyfriends over the millennia.
That's a romance, though.
Oh man.
That could be more.
I don't know. I don't know what they do behind closed tents.
So I don't disagree that there's not much build up, but again, like with Banana and Tata say, I don't feel like I needed to buy this relationship. It's the off-screen argument, I think, is big here. Sure, they looked at each other a few times and they have interacted both on the page and presumably at other times. I think I'm okay with hey, I like you. Do you want to hang out together? And that's fine. I don't need a big build up. I guess I'm trying to think why that is. If it's a romance book, then that's the entirety of the book, so it has to work that way. But this one, I feel fairly convinced that this is the way it is, and it's fine. I don't need more.
No, I think a good romance, if you want to put decent romance in, it needs to be you need to be emotionally connected to this relationship, right? Because it's emotional. It's not. You can do a lot of things in the background, story-wise. If it's like a logical thing, you just need to think about it. It's like, okay, I understand how that can happen in the background, but if you do the romance in the background, then I have no emotional connection to it, and the emotional connection is what I want from the romance, right? That's why it's different to me.
I don't, and I think I kind of come a little bit in the middle of you guys, because I don't care about a shallow romance. I always point at the first Thor movie, and it's like Thor and Jane Foster. It really just boils down to, you're hot. Hey, you're hot. That's it. But it's played as shallow. It's not played as if they're like soulmates forever. They're just two hot people that like each other. I think what does bug me a little bit about this is I do feel like they're trying to make Whiskey Jack and Corlat more of a thing when they are something perhaps more shallow, which I would be fine with.
Also, Thor and Jane Foster have a bunch of scenes together before they kiss for the first time, and I'm with you.
That's true.
Not a great romance. Those two actors, unfortunately, not a lot of chemistry. And, they died on that hill that they continue to make that a thing. But even that, I can, get on board with more just in terms of, well, at least they're trying. Versus here where it just feels like this was an afterthought. And then suddenly it was this big thing. That said, Shannon, I did notice that you changed your name to Whiskey Lat forever, and I respect that. It took me too long to notice that.
I don't know.
All
This
right,
is
are
one
we
of my
ready to move
favorite
on?
romances in the series.
Are we?
We're just
I
gonna
knew it.
disagree,
I knew
think.
it was you, Varsha. I was like, someone really likes this romance.
I love them as a couple, and they are great together. And
Ugh.
look at the things that he says about how they used to always honor the Testandi bodies that they found, even though the Testandi don't do it themselves. And Korlat says, "Don't go digging for my heart. You be careful what you find." And he says, all that I found in that search, I realized even then that I could do naught but honor them. Like, no matter what he finds, even if it's just pebbles, he will honor them. Just this conversation is so heartwarming.
It's
I love it.
beautiful.
I
I
love
agree.
it. Yes, exactly. It is beautiful. And they're talking for the first time on page that we see them about this. But that happens. I feel like you learn about people over other interactions. You don't, and maybe it's a subconscious thought, maybe it's not. But anyway, I like them. Be quiet.
It's just too nice. It's too nice. When I was reading that whole thing, oh, you honor the dead and stuff like that, I was like, oh, please, no.
Oh my
Just make it
god!
more
I don't
dirty.
mind. I
don't know.
I mean, I think I do prefer a herky jerkier romance, but that said, I can get on board with a nice sweet one. I just they say all the right things after like no interactions. Like they're in a few war meetings together and they like look at each other for 2 seconds and I'm like, I don't know.
But they
Also,
also
I
talk,
think
right? They hear. Sorry, go ahead, Mirka.
that's fine. You go.
Yeah, I was saying it's not that they also. I feel like you can admire someone for what they do in an interaction with a group of people, right? It's not like Whiskey Jack and Cola were just sitting quietly and that's that. They were probably also talking, and you can respect them for the things they say and do from a distance.
I want to see them thinking about each other for even 2 seconds before that. Give me Whiskey Jack's point of view thinking about Corlat, and then I'd be like, okay, I get it. But when we've been in his POV, he's thinking about how Gano's parent is young and has a tummy ache.
No, there is something like I think he's very, hesitant, and I think that's maybe the reason why it's not that much out there, that he's insecure. I'm sure there is a part where he's like, I'm too old for you, I'm too old, too ugly, too uninteresting for someone like you, Corlat. And those are his thoughts, right? Like, I think he's questioning his feelings, and maybe that's why things are
Could we get that before though?
Yeah.
Like build up to it. Like
right.
like I want the Jane Austen, him standing in the war meeting and yearning for her before they actually go, this is all I feel for you, and like I want to discover your black millennia old heart,
Okay,
like
let's find it.
I don't
Varsha.
just want to like.
I'm sure there is something that we can give these guys.
Yes, I will go looking. Project for next
Please.
week.
Yeah,
Please.
I want
Please.
that too. I can be satisfied with either of them in the war meeting looking at each other and being like, oh, I like the way his ass looks or something, or the way she sits or whatever.
Amen.
Or
Please
have
say
another
Adi,
scene
she
when...
wouldn't say that. That's below her.
Why not? Why not? No,
Why
it's
not?
not true.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Or
Because
have a
she's
scene when they're
classy.
like, I don't know, maybe they're looking at the wagons go by and it's like night and he's sitting there and then she comes over and they say some lines together, kind of like, a date. Give me a date or something.
This is the date, Dan. This is the date.
No, but she was already saying so many things. It's too much. It's too much.
Oh,
I do think it's very interesting how this has fallen on like gender lines. That like we've weirdly drawn like battle of the sexes battle lines on this romance. I don't know what it is about, like at least in this small group, that it just affected us differently.
Yeah,
I just
I'm
need
with Dan.
emotion in my romance.
I love romance, and I just
Yeah.
don't I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I want to feel it.
Hearts of Stone. How can you not like that line that Whiskey Jack said?
I like the line. It's not the line. I just don't like. I'm like, I want more yearning. I want more like build up.
But you yearn when you can't have someone. She's right there, and they're talking, and you know.
They've spent negative seconds thinking about each other on page before then.
He calls
Okay,
her to Silver Fox
we'll
at
try
some
and find
point,
some examples.
and
Sorry,
he's
what?
like, her Silver Fox's beauty pales against Corlat. Isn't that what you are looking for? He admires her beauty. He, you know.
There you go. Not about her ass, but it's there.
Yeah, he's classy too.
Not good enough.
I need
Not
more.
good enough.
I think we should just have this group just start reading romance novels so we can actually understand what the issue we have with.
Would be so funny,
yeah.
actually.
Okay.
We get really heated about romance novels too.
I think romance novels would have a lot of good discussion.
Okay, let's. I like this exercise. Dan, pick a book, or Carl, one of you pick a book, and I'll put forward one of my favorite.
Let's read Jane Austen.
I'm pro that. I like
Jane Austen.
Yeah, okay. I've got Persuasion to read next. We could do that one. Anyway, we'll talk about
Next
that.
topic.
Back to
what was I saying? Chapter 14. Are we ready to move on to Grunter?
Mhm.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we start with here's where Keruli crashes the meeting at the temple and calls himself Rat Cruel, and everybody's objecting to that. Jelarkan gives Itkovian a piece of his mind for not telling him about the fact that the Malazans are coming. Bad things happen to Stunny when she goes off to defend the city. And then Gruntle decides he wants revenge.
This all happens.
And then the good part. The rest of it.
Okay, we're done with this
too,
chapter.
but...
We can go to the next one now. You already summed it up everything.
Wait, what? We're done then.
Perfect.
If we are done with this chapter, we're done. We can go.
Oh, did we only do 2 chapters?
3 chapters.
Oh. Wait, this is the third one? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm lost.
The top chapter was pretty short.
True.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, so my favorite thing about the whole Gruntle thing is that we find out about what's happening not from actual battles that happen, but from the higher level effect it has on how the whole battle is moving, like their contributions to the overall defense that Itkovian keeps hearing about. I think that's brilliant, because if we're just saying Grunt will be a badass, yeah, that's cool, but how do we find out that what impact it's having, right? So I also love the change from when Stunny tells him you can go off and fight, and the immediate next scene is Itkovian going from losing hope because I think they're pretty much overrun, to getting a message about the fact that there's this guy who's rallied a bunch of troops and fought back some section of the army. Like, now I don't pretend to understand the mechanics of all of this. All I know is that things are going well, or better than they hoped, because of Gruntle, and I love that. I love the way that whole thing is set up, and I've talked about this 100 times before, that I hate battle scenes. I do not like reading action scenes, but these ones, again, I enjoyed because of the way they were told. So, yeah.
I just really like the whole scene when they're saying like, oh, there's this guy fighting with like 2 swords, like tusks, and then they go there. It's like it is slowly the discussion kind of morphs into like, oh no, they're not tusks. They're like, what do they call them? Teeth? No,
claws.
What are they? Claws, yeah.
Claws.
And then in your mind, it slowly morphs from the boar into the tiger, and how it's all put together. It's very cool. See.
Yeah. and the supremacy of it all. Sorry, the and there are two mentions of that, right, where they call them tusks, and then he says, okay, fine, like you can call them claws. And the first time, the gray swords soldier who's with them, she looks at him in shock. But there is also a sentence there about how the Tenascari are eating somebody or the other, and so we could presumably think that she's reacting to that. But then there's another paragraph later where they're explicitly reacting to the fact that they're calling them tiger claws, not Fenrir's tusks. And that means something, right? Because these are two gods of war who are, maybe there is a position of supremacy, maybe only one can keep their place as the god of war. Something's going on there. And we know from Dead House Gates that Fenrir was brought down to the earth at some point during the timeline of this book, because both books happen in parallel. So Treach is maybe ascending. Fenrir has a downfall coming up. So this build up to it, I think, is very interesting.
And it's cool how it merges with the story in the sense, like, okay, this city here, there's like the Grey Swords, which are being killed by defending it, and that's the downfall. That's kind of like the end of the Great Swords, sort of, as the god is also, descending. At the same time, the ascension of Treach, and this, again, Siege is also where Treach, I guess, is starting to ascend, like manifesting through Gruntle. Like, it's very cool how it's done.
Something I noticed
also.
Go for it.
Something I wanted to throw in also that I think that makes it a little more murky too with all this is we've got Fenrir kind of descending, Treach ascending, but also if we go back to that talk chapter, they made mention about talk and how his eyes were turning more wolf, and he was starting to see through the eyes of Bal Jog or Jag, however you say her name. So it's like we get this idea that also there's another player here that's also maybe ascending as well as Treach. So it's like, what's going on with war? Like, there's a lot going on here.
Absolutely. And I think something that I really honed in on in this chapter is I just how it's written. I get the sense that towards the end of chapter 14 is what's the word? Contemporaneous. It happens at the same time, simultaneous. I feel like there's another word though. Anyway, that, I mean, it happened simultaneously with fucking Finner falling to the earth in Dead House Gates.
Probably.
Like, my sense is that it's the same time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Shannon?
I was agreeing. Yeah, no, that actually, yeah, no, he's right.
It's cool stuff. I mean, yeah, Gruntle's story here is interesting. I something I wanted to just like briefly highlight too is on my first read through, I was like, I was rubbed a little bit the wrong way, that like with where Stani's storyline goes, but on this read through, I think I actually appreciate that at basically every turn, even though she's like raped in I mean, just that period, that at every step it's actually different than often you see it portrayed in a lot of fantasy, and that one, it happens in the line of battle, that she's a soldier. Two, she kills her rapist off screen, like just beforehand, like she just does it right. It's not even like, that's not the point, like she just has done it, and then three, that Gruntle, who obviously is pissed about it, he doesn't make a move on her. He doesn't do like it, like there's nothing gross, like he cares for her. It's very tender. but it's not like he's like there's some weird like he's taking advantage of her traumatic moment to like try to hook up with her, you know? Like it's just I feel like there are so many different ways that you have seen in other stories or like that like this could have gone, and at every step it kind of veers away from that here, which I really appreciated this time, as like I like took a step back and I was like, this is actually doing things differently than I think you usually see, especially in fantasy.
Yeah, and also I wanted to throw in too with what Varsha was saying earlier. That was interesting. I hadn't quite thought of it that way, of seeing Gruntle's effect on the battle. But yeah, what I really liked about this chapter with Gruntle is how we see the shift in his character. How in the first beginning of it, he teases Buke with the idea that maybe he's willing to join up with the tennis Gowry, because he just wants to live. But then as we go through, and honestly, I don't think he ever really meant that. But as we go through, as Stony, she gets raped, and he just becomes just vengeance, and it's not, it's definitely not like a hero story. He's not a hero. He's just death incarnate almost, or war incarnate, just ripping through and changing this whole course of this battle. Like you kind of get this idea that Kapustan may have fallen that night if he hadn't picked up that banner of the dead child's clothes and just went from there. And I just love it. I just like I said, it's not traditional hero stuff, but I really enjoyed it. His whole arc in this chapter.
Yeah, this has come up before. I wonder if it's like, Gruntle did this and then Treach basically found a vessel because he was doing that, or it's the other way around, that the influence of Treach basically pushed him to be like this. I wonder.
It's a good question.
I have an answer to that, but it involves spoilers, so we'll come back to it
Okay.
when we know more.
Inappropriate.
As a great man once said, who knows?
Somebody knows.
What else? We have all the wrath dickheads.
Oh, really? You're changing tack now, Dan, to somebody knows? Really? Really?
Somebody does know.
After
Somebody does know.
subjecting us to hundreds of who knows? Sorry, Carl, go ahead.
No, I think this is more important than talking about the wrath whatevers. That we have to keep Dan honest, and if we're not going to do it, who will?
Right? Yes.
Nobody should do it.
It's my unpalatable job as adjunct. I got to. This is
it's honest work.
Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, I dipped out briefly when you were talking about Karuli stepping in as Wrath Cruel, but there's a lot that happens there very quickly. And so I don't know the depth of what you all discussed about that, but we have the potential traitor. Did you talk about that?
No. I
okay,
even
well, I'm glad
forgot
I brought
about
this
it.
up.
Can
then.
you bring?
Yeah, that's like honestly second to Karuli being like, I'm Wrath Cruel, like I'm the high priest of Cruel, is like, which by the way, again, another thing that like I can't believe in hindsight on my first read I didn't notice, where it's like the guy's name is literally Cruelly. But anyway, that he ends his big soliloquy about himself basically and how much trouble they're in by being like, and one of you is going to betray us.
Yeah. Oh, one thing about his speech, which I also found interesting, was, do you remember the last discussion where we talked about like the Warrens being the blood of Cruel, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I remembered, wasn't it like the first time this was mentioned? Wasn't it mentioned sort of like as most people don't know? It's like it's supposed to be like
Yes.
a sort of secret. And then since that chapter, basically every chapter, it's been discussed and people say it to everyone. It just seems, I don't know. I've noticed it a couple of times that something is supposed to be sort of secret, and then as soon as it's mentioned, like it's very people just share that information very freely after it's been mentioned the first time.
Well, I don't know if it's like it's a secret in terms of it has to be secret so much as it's just a thing that most people don't know. If that makes any
Maybe.
sense.
Maybe.
Like I don't know that Karul gets anything out of not telling people that his blood is the magic they're using.
It just seemed a big revelation when it was revealed, and then I don't know. I mean, it's suddenly not.
I get what you're saying. I don't know. I would have to like look through and see like who is actually talking about it, but I don't
have a problem. It's just,
Yeah.
Obviously it cannot be a big reveal every time because we as the reader already know it. Even for everyone that they're saying it, it's like game changing for them probably. But
I do think it's interesting that like everyone just kind of knows Cruel exists, even though there is, I feel like early on, the implication that he's kind of a forgotten god.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah, his worship fell off long ago. I mean, maybe it's kind of like we could look at some historic, gods from the past that nobody worships him today, but we know that once upon a time somebody did.
Right.
I guess that's but the only problem with Malazan, this is kind of one of my general problems with Malazan, is just the time frames are so long sometimes. So it's like Karul was 300,000 years ago or something. It's like how could anybody possibly know about that? But I think the point stands. I think it's just he's known as once was a god, nobody worships him anymore.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely fair.
Because they knew about that place in Drujistan. They knew that was an old temple of Karul. The wherever where that first assassin guy got killed.
And it's not like we're having like complete randos talking about him. Like it's relatively learned people, other priests, things like that, who will not only be educated but potentially will have divine knowledge. So that's always the thing that's like tough to like compare Malazan and a lot of fantasy to the real world is like if it's a story where the gods or like some sort of higher powers are real, like how does that fundamentally affect the like if you're actively day to day, well, okay, maybe not day to day, but like if there's a pantheon and you're communicating with like your god or like any number of gods, or you have the ability, like how does that affect the religion versus like much more like, I mean, I guess the argument could be that that does happen today, and it's like the Pope talks to Jesus or Mary or whoever, insert any religious figure here, and just your average citizen isn't aware of it, but it does kind of, I do feel like maybe in more secular society, like even when you're religious, there is often a sense of like distance from a divinity, while it does feel like in these stories it's much more, the god is much more immediately available, but that may also be inaccurate.
We are following the elite, I guess, of the world,
right?
Like the most important. We're not following the normal guys, right? Really,
right?
Or they might be normal at the beginning, but very quickly they become not normal. So probably biased point of view.
That's definitely a big thing, right? Is like I feel like a lot of the quote unquote normal people we meet end up becoming like avatars of gods or whatever, So it's not not very often just like some rando, who happens to be wandering the streets, working as a merchant or whatever. It's
a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Often when they are randos, frankly, they get killed. like Harlow.
True.
Poor Harlow.
Poor heart.
Rest in pieces.
Well, one thing I did want to talk about was Buke and Corporal Broach, and and we learned that speaking of Caruli made him a soul taken, and he can what kind of he turns into a, can't remember the bird off the top of my head, sparrowhawk or something.
Yeah.
Sparrowhawk, I think.
And
Yeah.
what on earth is a rook?
Yeah. So a what?
A rook? Rook? The bird.
It's like a crow
Okay.
or a raven.
Oh, rook.
Yeah, a
It's
rook.
like a
Yeah, it's like, I
similar-
thought it was a raven.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
But,
it's
yeah.
a black bird. It's a black carrion bird.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they're turning into birds, and so he gets to turn into a bird to be able to follow them, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like a tease for more story in the future, but we now know. And was there Butler? Is he also a soul taken now or not?
No, he
wasn't
is.
sure
No.
if that
Is it?
he is, because he
Isn't
wanted
he?
him to come with him. Yuke was came
Oh,
with
yeah.
him. Yeah, that was
Oh,
my
yeah, yeah.
impression,
Yeah, Carul also made him a
but
soul.
I wasn't.
Wait,
Oh,
you mean
true.
Emancipor
Yeah, okay.
Reese is also a soul taken?
Yeah.
I think so.
Guess
Because
so.
Buke wanted him to come with him, and he would.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think
So
which, by the way, I forgot all 4 of those characters were soul taken. That was like a new discovery for me. That was wiped from my memory, and that was very fun to read. I enjoyed that was the end of the chapter. It was like, wow.
The interesting part to me
Yeah.
The
was
more
like,
you remember.
well, I guess we know now how you become soul taken. It's a potion that makes you soul taken. I guess.
Or a
So we didn't-
god makes
I
you.
guess.
or
Or
oh god,
Do you think it's the god?
because
or
we don't know all of Caruli's deal yet, right? Like he's a
But do you think
priest of Cruel, but we don't know much about him.
the necromancers also became soul taken through a god? I can believe more of it. There's like a potion that makes you soul taken.
there's no way it's just a potion though.
Why not? Because I remember. Don't you remember the first book? No, the second book when there was the whole civilization. There was, and it was said it's like a ritual or something, and there was a fountain. I don't know. In my mind, I was like, oh, they drank something and made them soul taken, or it got put into the water supply and they all became soul taken or something.
Okay,
That's
I
was my mind.
guess my reply would be, how are we defining potion?
The liquid of magical properties.
Okay, that's very broad. In that case, maybe. You know? Because I definitely get the sense that certain soul taken transformations require like blood magic, like
okay.
Cruel. I mean, that's Carul's whole thing is blood magic. So maybe you're right. Maybe its magic liquid turns you into. Oh shit! That would actually make sense in terms of like werewolf lore. If this was like a take on werewolf lore, where it's like magic saliva or magic blood.
Oh, is that how you become a werewolf?
I know from first-hand experience that is how that works.
Oh,
So
okay, good.
this isn't the full moon tonight, right? I'm a little off on my calendar.
Oh my god, I was distracted for like 2 seconds and I came back to Carl admitting he's a werewolf.
Werewolves
No,
are
but
soul taken.
the right. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that, but actually, Dan, you may be onto something. That it may be like some sort of liquid transference. You know,
I mean, liquid must be part of it because he did give the liquid to him, right? So it must be some part.
Maybe the
At
liquid was
least
a misdirection and he
portion.
did some other kind of magic on the guy. I don't even know why.
No, I mean,
I'm arguing about this.
No. I think it's a fair argument. I mean, my initial thought was that it's just like there are a lot of different ways you can become a soul taken or diverse, but Dan, I mean, you might be right. I think it is possible because I feel like we haven't definitively seen someone just be like gifted or like level up into shape shifting. Like the only hard, like this is how they became it. You know, experiences we've seen have been, liquid, and I mean, yeah, even Deadhouse Gates, like I don't know that we're given like extremely concrete examples, but a lot of the allusions, you're right, do kind of allude to like some sort of
I remember a fountain. I don't know.
yeah,
They didn't say that it was specifically
liquid
a fountain,
ritual.
but I remember there was a fountain in the room when they were describing it. So, I don't know.
I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but there's definitely something to blood being a thing for like some of them. Have we heard? Okay,
Maybe
blood
Caroli's a soul
of
taken.
a certain god referring to a certain type of soul taken
Might have been in some
that we
poems.
have
I don't
been
think we know
introduced
about
to.
it
I just feel like
explicitly.
we've been given this and it's given in passing and it's one of those things that's easy to like skip over, but I also don't
wait.
want to like go lean into it if we haven't heard that yet.
Was it
But
Krull
they're
and his blood with the Warrens and the soul take? I seem to recall that too, and I think it was mentioned.
that's not who I'm talking
Yeah.
about. So if that's like we know all about him at this point. So that's like definitely, well, not all about him, but that I mean, Dan, I think you're right. That I think but I think the potion specifically with Cruel probably does involve blood.
Maybe
that's his whole deal. This blood.
Maybe
magic.
Caruli is a soul taken, and he made the potion with some of his blood, and then I don't know, the eyes of a frog or something, or he blessed it, and then he becomes something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like an actual potion. You know, you put these weird ingredients, then you put the magic in, and then
don't forget the lizard's tail.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, here's what I'll say. Here's the thing I will say. Have we heard the name Tiam or Tiam?
Okay, I think that's the one I was thinking of too. I think in a poem we know some stuff. I don't remember what we know. There's definitely a poem.
I vaguely remember it making that reference, but maybe not, and so I won't get into it in detail.
Yeah.
But actually, moral of the story for me is, despite the fact that I reacted very strongly against what you were saying, Dan, initially, I think you may be onto something there. There may be a like liquid magic. I think bodily fluid, though, specifically.
Hopefully blood.
Transference of power.
Why did you extend the scope to bodily fluid, Carl?
I'm sorry. I realized as soon as it came out of my mouth that way, I'm not gonna lie. I regretted it as soon as I said it. At the same time, it's not beyond Malazan. You know, like that could happen. I'm not like, never say never. Listen, this is the book with Children of the Dead Sea.
That's true.
Okay.
That's another kind of bodily fluid for you.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes.
I'm glad we're already demonetized, so we don't have to worry about it.
Demonetized.
Monetized to begin with.
By the way, I'm only speaking for myself.
Pre-monetized.
I don't know what stage of monetization Steve's at, but I guess he's just gonna have to deal with it. Are we ready to move on to quotes? Okay, let's do some quotes. I'm going to for all the Whiskey Jack Corlat haters. I'm gonna reread that sentence.
Sure.
Wait.
It is your right.
Damn it, I can't find it. Someone else do a quote while I look for it.
Well, one quote I liked was at the end of chapter 12 when Talk gets his nice hug. It says, he had no breath to which to scream, yet arms holding him felt his shudder and squeezed tighter.
Yeah.
And then, I guess that's when he getting all of his bones broken.
Okay, this is not a pretty quote, but this is one I want to highlight because I was just reminded of it as I was flipping through. This is the second half, really the last third of the epigraph for the whole of Book 3 / Act 3, Kapustan.
Mm-hmm.
It is known, however, that I'm going to rewind. Okay. I'm just going to read the whole thing. The last mortal sword of Finner's Reef was Finald of Convor, who was killed in the chaining. The last boar-cloaked destriant was Ipshank of Corelry, who vanished during the last flight of Manask on the Stratum ice fields. Another wanted to claim that title, in parentheses, this isn't written in parentheses, but destriant, but was cast out from the temple before it came to him. And that man's name has been stricken from all records. It is known, however, that he was from Unta, that he'd begun his days as a cut purse living on its foul streets, and that his casting out from the temple was marked by the singular punishment of Finner's Reef. And the title of this, whatever this is, this nonfiction and fiction, is Temple Lives by Björn Thund. Now, I highlight that because that's 1,000% talking about a character we have met before.
Can I guess the name? I thought of
Please.
Heberic, right?
It's not a spoiler.
Isn't that Heberic?
That's definitely
yeah,
Hebor.
right?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Like, I had never caught that before, but that's 100%
Yeah.
him. We know he was a thief. He was cast out with the Finner Reeve bullshit, and he had all the powers of a destriant. It's
That's
him.
awesome.
100% him.
Yeah, I thought
Anyway.
What I
someone on
liked,
the forum mentioned it was somebody else. They named a character, I think, from one of the Esselmont books, if I remember correctly. But I think it's. I thought of Heberic too,
Yeah.
especially because of the punishment. Because that's what that did. The chopping off the hands. It's not just a vindictive punishment. It's so he couldn't open the warren thing on his chest, right?
Well, but the first part of that section that he read is talking about two other characters that are in a different book.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Ipshank and Manask, which as soon as I saw the name Ipshank, I was like, wait, that name sounds familiar, because it's a very memorable character.
Because, I mean, Haborik is definitely was a thief. He tells Fellison that.
Yeah.
He talks about how he grew up on the streets. And I don't remember if he says he grew up on the streets of Unta, but he talks about that. Like, that's 100% him.
Yeah.
And considering his relationship with Finner, I just think it all adds up there.
Yeah.
Must be.
And then immediately after that is the epigraph to actual chapter 14, which I liked. It says, "If you can, dear friends, do not live through a siege."
Yeah.
And I thought that was just wonderfully ominous for the chapter we were about to read.
But also, I like how that says it like it's something that you can help.
Yeah. that is the like classic Erikson, like black humor, the irony of that's classic Erikson.
So I have one that's not the Whiskey Jack one, but it's from the Gruntle chapter. Well, that's what I call the chapter now. It's not. It's got nothing to do with Gruntle.
The Gruntle chapter.
I think this is Carnadus, or maybe it's the Mortal Sword, talking to Itkovian about how his vows won't let him sleep with Hethan. In other words, Itkovian,
That was a good one.
Yeah, your vows were born of a dialogue with yourself, not with Fenner. The chains are your own, as is the possession of the keys with which to unlock them when they are no longer required.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that was just, he decided that that's how it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
There was no rule about it?
Yeah, he made his own rules, apparently.
Well, he gave himself these rules because he's supposed to be serving this god, so he's like, okay, well, I won't have sex, but Fenner never actually asked him to do that. Like, he put that on himself for his job. But that's very interesting, because if you think about it, Fenner's the god of war. What does he care about sex? Like, yeah.
Perhaps our denial of life's celebration is our greatest insult to those whom we worship and serve.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is still in that same context.
So,
Sorry,
so
Shannon,
that's. No, I was just gonna say, and I think that quote is just, it's wonderful because it makes you think about what do we put on ourselves that we maybe think is, this is a responsibility to, my God, my family, my job, my whatever, but we're just putting this on ourselves.
Yeah.
They're not actually putting this on us, and maybe we even resent them for something that we put on ourselves.
That's a great point.
So.
Yeah, is that it even does go beyond like religion that way, where I think that's the obvious, like, I mean, that's literally what this is about with Ikovian, but that day to day, I think that certainly, I'm sure we have all, created sort of our own structures
Rules.
within ourselves, right? Rules,
Yeah,
exactly. That out of expectation, or whatever we want to call it, right? Like whatever motivates it, but that isn't actually expected of us, that we project. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like it exactly for that, for all the real world situations that it applies to, especially religion, but like you said, Carl, maybe far more than that. I like when Hethan tells it, Govian, spirits take me, my bones ache, my muscles cry out for carrying hands. And it Govian says, there are limbering exercises.
That is so good. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. That when I read that killed me. I was like, oh wait, this is why Ikovian rocks. Yes.
There are limbering exercises. We gotta put that on a t-shirt.
There are limbering amen. That's a t-shirt worthy quote.
Yes. Hey, what's this from? The rocks have stared the bastard in the eye for so long they're past fudging. Yeah, I don't remember what this is. Okay, 2 more quotes. I'll find that Whiskey Jack quote now. No? Are we done? Oh no,
I don't have any more.
still haven't found it.
Well, while you're looking for that Whiskey Jack quote, I'll say one of my favorites, and this is more shallow, I guess, but the about Gruntle, Kovian's thinking about him, and he says, fights like a boar, gods know this man is big, plains hunting cat. He has bulk eye, but he possesses unnoticed beneath a deadly grace. Fenner, save us all, the tiger of summer's ghost walks in this man's shadow. And so that's kind of like the moment where it makes clear that, despite the boar imagery, he's actually a tiger. I just thought it was a great quote.
It is. That's one of those like fantasy tropes I love, is when characters just read right to the symbol. Like, it's one of those things that like that doesn't happen in real life usually, like 99% of the time, but I just find like very compelling and like cool to read about, when like someone makes that mythic connection straight away. Or not straight away, but that they like actively, make that connection. Actually, chapter 12's epigraph, I as I was looking through, I was reminded of how much I appreciated this, especially with the context of not even a reread of the whole book, but a reread of this chapter and what we learn in this chapter. In the mountain's heart she waited, dreaming of peace, so deeply curled around her grief. When he found her, the man's search was done, and he took upon himself her every scar, for power's embrace is a love that wounds. From the book Rise of the Doman by Skintala of Bastion, 1129 to 1164. That's about the matron of the Kachane Shmal. And I think you don't know that on the first read. You can't know that that's what it's talking about. And it's not just about her, it's about her and the... Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's interpretable who the he is in that, but certainly her. There's a lot interesting there, not least about dreaming of peace. I think is very interesting within the context of how we are introduced to her.
Yeah. I seem to recall there was some explicit references to memories of ice again in this chapter, like when we meet the
There were.
Panini Domain.
Yes. The Panini Empire.
The Panini Empire. Next book is about the pizza domain. Anyway, we'll move on.
The pizza domain. Oh no, it's expanding.
Oh, domain. Like, oh, that's a nice one.
Oh, I did. Damn, that's pretty good.
Okay, I will shut up. No. I found the quote again. We will read it, then we will wrap up. I thought that one day I might have the opportunity to return what was clearly of value to those fallen to Sandy. All that was found in that search, I realized even then that I could do naught but honor them. About some pebbles, maybe, and Kolat's heart.
It's about the pebbles. Let's be real
and her
here.
heart. It followed
No, it's about the
a
pebbles.
statement about her heart. Okay. But
All right, sure. We can pretend it's poetic, but it's about rocks.
it's about honoring rocks, Carl. It's not about the rocks themselves. Anyway, okay. If you're still here, if we didn't drive you off with this, thank you so much. For
Which I hope we did.
You did? Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week with chapters 15, 16, 17 of Memory
Good job,
in the
that's
Price.
right.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carl. I try. Yeah, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.